I actually, we probably should talk some more because I worked at the Atlanta Olympics as well.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I was in the AT&T building at the non-accredited media center.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
We're all taking notes.
Anyway.
And each going to contribute a chapter to your book.
Yeah.
I want to read your autobiography because it sounds.
I'm wondering where else we crossed.
Too much you can't write.
Oh boy! Just like you take the book. There's like half of it missing from the center.
It's all
rip out the
censored out.
pages. It's like trying to do research in the archives.
Wow.
So when I'm after some of the documents that we need for these projects, you get to the date where you know that's where you're going to find what you need, and the whole page will be missing.
Wow.
Somebody will have ripped it out and tucked it in their pocket and taken it away. That's what my life is, ripped out pages that you can never read.
It's funny
though.
like
special security clearance?
Yeah,
she can't talk about that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm also the type that if somebody tells me, even personally, don't say anything, like I would never, ever, ever violate that. You know what I mean? It's like, no, and I don't even risk it. Like, I didn't know what we had publicized about this mission. So my wife knows I'm on a vessel. And that's it. It's just, if somebody doesn't explicitly say it's okay to talk about something.
Yeah, so I met the captain this morning. He seemed to know where I had lived.
Oh dear.
Did you parachute over his house?
Oh dear.
Uh-oh.
Is that great or is that concerning?
Well,
it's okay.
The captain and I were both in the military at the same time, so we had an opportunity to meet much earlier in our lives.
Yeah, but you didn't, fortunately.
Yeah.
So
also the same age.
Is it time for us to start FOIA requesting Lonnie's records?
Right.
The pages will be ripped out.
Yeah.
It's time to check
They're in her pocket.
Next time she leaves the archives. She's disappearing.
Oh, good.
Now, Lonnie, I have a question for you, Lonnie. And I think a lot of us hopefully can relate to this. When we're in a social setting and somebody asks us what we do, I think they find it to be really compelling, interesting work, which leads to us spending 15 to 20 minutes describing what we do. And sometimes I just want to say I'm a plumber and not have to go through the whole thing again. You must have, I mean, when people say, so what have you done? Do you just say, oh, I'm just a quiet little architect.
You
Nothing
just say
interesting
everything.
here, nothing to see here.
Basically, because the other is a job where all you have is the personal knowledge of what you've done. But if you're doing it for any recognition, appreciation, or whatever, you won't ever receive it.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you're to receive a medal, you can't take it home.
Right.
I mean, so what you're doing is from a feeling of serving your country, definite patriotism, putting your own skill set to the job. You might be the only person who could manage that particular job because of your sex or your age or, so you can't talk about it. So there's definitely lots of times in a room where I feel like the most boring person in the room.
Intentionally boring. Yeah.
Boring, humdrum.
I think you should just tell them everything when they ask what you do.
Well, the problem is I'll be like, well, I work out at sea. And people go like fishing vessels, and it's always a moral dilemma because I don't want to lie deliberately or something because I could just say, yep, and that'd be the end of it.
We're
I
fishing
think, no,
for
actually,
answers.
research vessel. Oh, really? What kind of stuff are you looking for? I mean, we've all had this conversation 50 times probably, and it's like, I mean, I enjoy it, and if I didn't like the work, I want to enjoy talking about it. But that's usually when my wife just rolls her eyes and heads towards the bar.
She's heard it before.
My husband and I are both in the maritime world, and he finds that sometimes when people ask what he does, they go, oh yeah, okay, and your wife? And then he can say what I do, and then they're like, oh, let me talk about your wife for a second.
Yeah,
and he thinks that it's somewhat annoying sometimes, but sometimes great.
I was at a dinner with 4 couples. There was myself, my buddy Rob, who's an attorney, another friend who's a physician, and a couple that we had not met before. And the husband is an elevator repairman. And we were fascinated
Oh,
with
yeah.
that. We asked him the million questions
Yeah.
we've all ever had about elevators. And the poor guy was experiencing what I was just describing. Like, you don't want to have to be talking about work all the time. But
He had his ups and
oh,
downs. Right?
yes, exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
But you can add comedian to the list.
Yeah. Although the interesting part of that thing, too, I think that's very cultural, is friends of ours in Amsterdam, and you've lived around the world, you've probably seen this. When my wife met my colleague for the first time, she asked him, "Oh, what do you do?" And he said, "Well, we like to caravan and travel around, and we also bicycle." And she's like, "Well, what do you do?" He's like, "Well, we like to do the caravanning in the winter, and we bicycle in the sun." And that what you do is almost a purely North American convention for what's your job. And Hank has a friend that I asked him once, what does he do? And he's known this guy for a decade or so. No idea what the guy's job is. Just not part of the identity of
I know in
who
the
you
U.S., when you meet somebody at a cocktail party or wherever at the bar, you say, "What do you do? What do you?"
Yeah.
But for men, often their job identity is their main identity.
Yeah.
For women, there are lots of things, other things going on if they have kids and whatever, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
not the main deal.
Right.
But
Right.
Rennie, will you tell us when you want the end of the line, like all of our stuff to be?
Sure, yeah, it's approaching.
Yeah. Just give us a heads up.
Yeah, I'm just trying to eyeball it.
Thank you.
Are we going to do a heading change?
Yes, we will.
Okay.
You will turn to starboard. But right now you're still going about 260. Straying towards 270.
Renato, can you give me a signal when Argus is about at the end of the line?
Yeah, I'll let you know.
Thanks.
It's an unusual shape on sonar.
So Peyton, you're a little bit more on a different side of the career path. Do you, because you're second year?
Just going into my second year, yeah.
Right. Or have you heard the phrase rising sophomore? Have you heard that? Yeah, that's a new one on me, the whole rising thing. Whatever.
Not for elevator
Do you
repairman.
find a bit of anxiety about career and job and all that already, or?
Oh, that's a loaded question, for sure.
Yeah. That seems generational to me,
target.
because at least, I mean, I'm in my mid-50s. Me and my peers, we just were winging it, but we never felt any real pressure about it. You just made opportunity where you wanted opportunity,
That is
but
strange.
I don't think
been in
that
that one.
exists anymore. I think the world's changed.
Yeah, I think there's a big push for knowing what you want to do early.
Yeah.
Like, especially even for University of Washington and a lot of other colleges, now you need to like directly apply into a major. And once you're in, there might be limited chances to switch later, or it's really hard to get into some of them.
Can we move towards a selected target? Thank you.
But yeah, there's definitely a big culture shift in terms of people going, like, I know a ton of people in the CS department who are like, I want to go work in industry, or I've worked 5 internships in industry and they all sucked and now I want to go work in research.
Huh.
And I'm like, you guys are in your first year of college. How do you know this already?
Yeah, I've seen in my career a lot of people who will get a degree and get into a field and realize they hate that job and that work.
Yeah, and then you
And
did all the prereqs.
it's almost
like,
the competitiveness is almost a disservice to letting you be able to explore the world and find what you're passionate about.
Yeah,
You have
for
to be
sure.
so committed so early. And I say this all the time, so if you've heard it from me, I'm sorry. Just
We
a
can
core
go
belief.
ahead and end this line here.
All right.
End of line.
And then do a turn data.
Thank you.
Yep.
Roger?
How are you supposed to decide at 18 or 19 what you want to do for the
You're
rest
not
of your
supposed to have
life?
a clue. And as an adult, we do a disservice to young people because we don't know how to talk to kids. We ask them 5 questions. It's always, what grade are you in? What's your favorite subject? Do you know what do
What do you
you
wanna
do you know
be
what you
when you
want to
grow up?
what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
When does school get out? Or the worst question, when does school go back? And do you have any boyfriends, girlfriends, whatever? And that's all we ever know how to ask kids. And I'd rather be asking, have you found stuff you don't like that you want to avoid for the rest of your life? Do that. And have you had chances
do
to
you
explore and do
There's that
different
rock.
things? Yeah.
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 Well, I worked with kids quite a bit because I have a project called Kids to Space.
Oh.
And going into schools, I
Don't
found
you have a
that
book too that goes
kids-
along with that?
Yeah, I have 3 books.
3 books.
3
Yep.
books. Yeah. What I found is kids have so much pressure. I mean, you have to get to kids in grades 5, 6, or 7, and then
Yeah.
it's too late. There's so much pressure for testing,
Right.
for sports, doing your best in everything you do, community service, you name it, walk the dog,
Yeah.
take out the trash. There's just so much pressure that kids give up on their curiosity and their hopes and dreams. And then you're killing their choices and their opportunities for the future by all the pressure and early decisions,
Right.
deadlines, nervous parents,
Yeah.
teachers that are stressed because they can't fit in anything extra. We had a local technology school in Virginia, Thomas Jefferson. It's very, they only take the highest, intellects into that high school.
Mm-hmm.
And a friend who's an astronaut said he called them up one day and said, "Hey, I'm in town. I'd like to come over and talk to the kids." And he was told, "Nope, we don't have time.
You've astronaut
no time in the
friends?
schedule."
Wow.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, but and those kinds of interactions, when you talk, frequently we're asked here, how did you get into this field? And there's so many people who have an interaction with one person or one fleeting
Summer, can you change
glimpse
your heading to 285?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
of a career or an industry that can be life-changing.
Just got a text
I had a friend come over to my dad's when I was 8 years old. He had a Super 8mm camera. This would have been 1971. And we went to the park. We shot a bunch of film. A couple weeks later, he brought it back from the lab. And I was like, okay, I'm doing that for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I was like,
It's that one thing.
set, yeah. And the funny thing is, about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I realized I've been telling that story my whole career. And I went to great lengths to find that person and tell him that story.
Makes a difference.
And then he
Wow.
killed me by said, you know what? I think I have that film in a storage locker somewhere.
Nice.
But I've moved about 4 houses recently and pared down, so I have about 6 storage units. So so I wasn't like, all right, I'm driving to Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Just give me the keys in a month. Because that would be great to have. I mean, I know exactly what that film looks like in my mind. Like, I know where the edits were. I mean, it made such an impression. So, but I don't need it.
Yeah.
It's done its job. But it was important to me to call and say thank you. That made a heck of an impact.
back to the plane and what we're hoping
Yeah.
to find.
Yeah.
Just to say, the structural strength stress factor figures alone for this plane take up nearly 1,000 pages,
Whoa.
just for the structural strength stress factor figures.
Wow.
And that was all probably by hand slide rule.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, they're slowly changing heading right now.
So for our viewer from Florida, he's asking about what
Looks like it.
depth we're at, and we're at
Ooh, that's
3,200.
pretty big.
Yeah. no, we're at 3,200 meters about, and our Argus is hanging out just above the ocean floor.
15 meters up.
15 meters. Thank you, Summer.
Probably go to 315, 300, something like that.
So Lonnie, have you ever used your mystery clearance to help you get some documents?
What kind of a question is that?
I don't know if she can tell you
You
that.
actually expect an answer to a question
Right.
like that.
No idea what you're talking
Yeah, you're
about.
pressing the wrong
I'm
Yeah,
gonna
buttons
wear
over
you
there.
down.
I'm tuning out.
Yeah. Hey, could you tell us a little about that kids program you were
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about?
Oh, well, I'm not dropping.
Especially
I'm
when
not
we talk
dropping
about it.
names here, but so I'm a member, along with Captain Megan and Russ, of the Explorers Club
Oh, right.
in New York, and
Yep.
I was at an Explorers Club meeting and happened to see Buzz Aldrin just standing by himself.
Mm-hmm.
So I went over and introduced myself, and he said, "What do you do?" And I said, "Well, I'm Senior Vice President of the World." That was the ship.
Excellent
Kids
title.
always thought that was fun to say what their mom was. And he said, "Well, you're encapsulating people's environments in steel on that ship, and that's what we're doing for space, but you're about 5 or 6 years ahead of us for what the private citizens will expect versus what NASA or the military get." He said, "I want you to come out to LA and talk to about 600 aeronautical engineers at a conference and talk to them about this." So I did, and then I went back to Norway and got back, and it was 5 years later, and I was sitting at the home computer, and the telephone rang, and
Probably head north.
they said, "Is Lonnie there?" And I thought, the telemarketers even have my
Yeah,
nickname.
right.
But I was too busy to hang up, and then the person said, "Hi, it's Buzz.
Oh.
Buzz Aldrin." He said, "I see you're through with the ship. Now it's time for you to transfer to space." So
Nice.
we formed a little company together called Global Space Travelers. And I just got a text from Buzz because I just sent him congratulations on the upcoming 50th anniversary. So I
Yeah.
just
Did
had
you see the photo of the
text him.
group?
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah.
Watching them take the photo.
What,
Yeah.
what a great
Yeah,
outfit.
that's great. So anyway, Buzz is a real visionary. He was never a CEO, but he has a million ideas. And I used to think I was responsible for trying to make them all happen, and then I honed it down to what I could do with no money.
Right.
And that was going into the schools to try to get the kids excited about something, especially women.
Yeah.
The girls were very risk averse, and if they couldn't be perfect, they didn't want to risk to try and fail. So
Oh.
teachers would come in and say, "Tell them about parachuting, tell them about flying, tell them about this and that. The girls can do those things too." And I saw the kids' eyes glaze over. At that time, we were with the X Prize. I
Right.
don't know if you remember the X Prize. So I was telling them about X Prize, and I thought if anything can get people excited, this should be it, going to the edge of space and coming back and seeing a view of our planet Earth. No, glazed over eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt really discouraged and sad, and I said, how can I shock these kids into back to their imagination and curiosity? So one day in one of the schools, I said, look, you're in a time warp. Blop, blop, I waved my hands around. You're in a time warp, and you're going to the moon. Your grandparents, we're going to the moon in a few weeks, and you're in charge of 2 of your grandchildren, and you have a couple weeks to ask me 3 questions. Well, I didn't know a thing about space, really.
Mm-hmm.
And I only expected maybe 600 questions. Within 6 months, I had 18,000 questions from
What?
every
Whoa.
school in the U.S. and in Canada, internationally. Blind kids, kids in
Wow.
wheelchairs, everything else. And the teachers and principals were calling me. They started believing that it was actually going to happen. And so a Canadian, anyway, I had sent out a 2-page survey. Ask 3 questions about things you want to know about space. Draw a picture of what you imagine it would be like to travel to or live in space, and would you personally go? That resulted in 18,000 questions that I had to pare down. And my husband said, "Am I ever going to see this computer again?" And I said, "Probably not.
Right.
You better buy another one." And the mailman actually changed his route because he was
To get rid of all the heavy
to
stuff first.
deliver all these questionnaires
Wow.
back to me. A lot of the schools, their latest technology was a fax machine. They didn't have computers.
Yeah.
And so what I did was go on the website and pick all the non-NASA schools. So I went into reservations and shut down schools and places where the kids were disadvantaged. And worked with those kids, and a Canadian book company, Apogee, Collector's Guide Press, came to me and said, "You've got the first space manual done by our future space travelers. Here's your book contract." I said, "You don't even know how I'm going to organize all this, or if I can write a sentence." And they said, "We don't care. You've got you've done the work. You've got the material." So I honed it down to about 92 chapters, radiation, you name it. The only chapter I didn't touch was sex in space, but absolutely everything else, alcohol, drugs, everything. And then I rounded up the same number of experts to answer the questions for no money in a very short time period. 15 of those were astronauts, and some are still good friends. But so that book came out. It's called Kids to Space, A Space Traveler's Guide, and it's really an all-family book because it's very... adults stop asking questions when they think it's not an intelligent question, but the kids aren't afraid. So all the answers are in there, and most of them are still correct. Then National Science Teachers Association gave it their Recommends Award, and they said, now you have to lead teachers through it because they don't have time to figure out how to teach space. So then I did Kids to Space mission plans and Educator's Guide. With 92 lesson plans in the same order as the original book, all for national standards for grades 5 to 7, because that was my target age for getting to kids.
Yeah.
And then we realized there was nothing for smaller kids except Magic School Bus and things like that. So I did Kids to Space Club, Are We There Yet? Because that's the first question the kids answer. Then I had, what blew my mind was the 6,000 illustrations that I had. With one sentence, draw what you would imagine it would be like to live in or travel to space. Not one of the 6,000 illustrations resembled another. The power of the human brain for imagination blew me away. So I used those illustrations in the book, and then National Air and Space Museum showed them on the big screen a couple times, and Buzz sat under the shuttle with me at Udvar-Hazy a couple times to sign the book. And so then I'd go into workshops and have activities based on the lesson plans and on and on. So
That's
I just
great.
had another book come out the day I left for this. It came in the mail. I haven't even looked at it. I just, it's a kid's book about a...
But this is one you wrote. Did you write all of the lesson plans too?
Yeah, I wrote a lot of the lessons. If I couldn't find a lesson plan about addiction, for instance, or things like that, I write it and then test it.
Lonnie, while you were talking about it, I looked it up on Amazon, and it says, by Lonnie Jones Shore and America's School Children as the author.
Oh, nice.
It's so sweet. I really want...
They did it, and one of the things I've saved was a locker key. So this little boy in Wyoming said, I guess I won't be needing my locker key. We're going to space. And he sent it to me. It's so simple to me of how they believed in the project.
I really want to get a copy of this.
Is it on Prime Day special?
It is Prime Day.
Way to bring it back.
Some
viewers did find your book on Amazon and sent us the link.
Oh, they did?
I'm looking at it right now.
The new book is called The Moose Family. Takes place in New Hampshire.
Does the Moose family go to space?
The moose, I considered that at the end, but that's about all they could do to cross the road. It actually happened, I took my mother out for dinner in Sandwich, New Hampshire, and it was a nice summer evening, and after I said, Mom, let's just take a drive, maybe we'll see a moose, not ever thinking that would happen. 5 minutes later, a moose walked out of the forest and stood up on the road and just looked at us.
It's because he heard you were coming.
Oh, it just,
pretty much.
It was just crazy.
You willed it to happen.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
So I was so excited I went home and wrote a long poem that got illustrated by a man who lives up on the Cabot Trail in Nova Scotia.
Wow.
I heard Agent Lonnie was coming.
Yeah, it was just unbelievable.
So Lonnie, what's your next book?
Oh my, I just have to finish building this house. I'm
Yeah?
supposed to be there now overseeing it.
Lonnie, you should write a book about this expedition. Or expeditions.
You know, I wanted to do that, but I think that's Russ's. I think Russ wants to do that. If he doesn't
by
want to,
himself?
yes. If he doesn't want to, I would love to do that.
Be co-authors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think Russ would like to do that. It's his to do. You know what? I'll find all the backup research.
We won't ask how you got it.
No, the backup research part is
Go
essential
ahead,
to the
Bridge.
job. Sorry.
Roger that. Yeah, we can proceed along the selected line, bearing 080, speed 1 knot. Thank you.
So this is our 5th pass?
Roger that. Fifth line.
All right.
Yeah.
Line 14.
Line 14.
Great.
25%.
Or
Lonnie, you have captivated our viewers.
Oh dear.
In addition to the fan club that you have that is quickly amassing, someone asked, what has been your greatest achievement in your business life or personal life?
wow.
Ooh.
We're going deep.
That's a good question.
That's a massive question. I wonder if that comes from my family.
Yeah, yeah.
Could be.
That's a trick
Like,
question.
Because-
They're
you
just
better
trying
say
to
your
get you
children.
into trouble on
Because if it
Thanksgiving.
does, obviously it's my family.
Well, they didn't ask a follow-up question about which of your children you like the most.
Yeah,
So you might be off the hook for now.
Each one knows he or she is the favorite.
So we'll go with personal life for the family. What about business life? Because you've done everything. Like, that's just the easiest way to say it.
I think moving around the world, it just throws you into different situations. You're totally out of your comfort zone until you reestablish, and then you move again. So also that opens a lot of doors. So my MO was to always say yes. And when you go through one door, then it always leads to another that's totally unexpected. But so I do feel that from the outside, my CV looks like I have attention deficit disorder, but mostly it's because we've lived in Bangkok, Moscow, Leningrad, behind the Iron Curtain when it was Leningrad, Istanbul, Rome, Oslo, and back home in Virginia, and 3 kids, and I've been on a lot of boards. The most recent, I just finished 6 years on the Connecticut College board in New London, and
Oh.
just finished on Jane Goodall's board.
Mm.
And, so those are different focuses. Of course, for Jane Goodall, it's the poaching and elephants, rhinos, things like that we're working on. And for college admissions, it's something totally different. And writing the books, and then trying to work as an architect. And I think multitasking enriches your brain. It's probably like kids on video games when their fingers and everything move so quickly. If you can do that, if you can keep activating your brain that way, there's really no one favorite thing or favorite accomplishment, because you're always opening a new door and trying something new. So it's more of a jack of all trades than becoming an expert in one thing. But that was sort of forced upon me by our constant moving and trying to be, mom and When you're overseas, the receptions that you have to hold, constant going to reception, hosting people, cooking, the whole thing. It's just Cub Scout, dead mother, everything happening at once. So there's no one thing that stands out as the best thing. It's the tapestry of it all mixed together with family and work and travel and home. It's always wonderful to come home.
Yeah, it is a tapestry, eh?
Yeah, it's a huge tapestry. You can't pick out a thread.
I do like, especially when like relating to younger people, encouraging people to just do something and push yourself so far out of your comfort zone as early as you can, and realize that that's not a terrifying thing and it's rewarding. The last video engineering intern I had, I think she, on her own in her gap period between high school and when she started college, so you're 12 and 13, she went and volunteered at maybe a monkey rehabilitation facility in Thailand.
Huh. Wow.
Yeah, no, elephant. She worked with elephants in Thailand at 17 or 18. Justin, our data engineer, went to Russia and worked on a project on the internet, an experiment on the International Space Station in Russia after high school. So those types of things let you see that the self-imposed walls that could restrict the rest of your life don't need to exist, and they're easy to bash down.
Yeah.
I think it's good to always test your limits, because when you push the wall out of what you thought your limits were restricted to, you find you increase your capacity. So I have to admit I was terrified coming here. For viewers at home, this is an awesome ship with a crew of, I believe, 17. They're about almost 50 aboard at one time. People are scientists, engineers, everything. And I'm coming aboard wondering where would I fit in this group, because I'm not any of those things. And we're sitting in a control van with screens everywhere showing the sonar positions, everything you can imagine, and it's just a stunning array. And you come in with all these controls. It sort of felt like the cockpit of 747. And I was nervous, but if you say no to doing things that make you nervous, then you never grow. So thanks for welcoming me into this.
That's the great thing about why we all keep coming back to the family. The part of this job that I love the most is interacting with young professionals and students and getting to have some influence. I take the mentoring responsibility very seriously, and it's not just for the period they're out here. But I always like to reinforce to them, and there's very little things I'm absolutely pretty sure about, but this is one, especially when dealing with young people. I try and enforce or let them know that they are absolutely dead wrong about what they cannot do. What you think you can't do, you're wrong about. And what your big dreams are in life, you're going to prove to yourself at some point that you need bigger dreams, because that's going to be easy to accomplish. And put that behind you. And then as far as, this is super intimidating. So we'll be, when we come into port, I'll be bringing on an intern, and somebody who's never seen anything like this before in his life. And the day after we leave, a day after he arrives, he's going to be sitting here working. And I will not let him come into this van without me taking him aside, and I'll say, you're about to see a super intimidating setup. It's that way for everybody. I guarantee you, you're going to learn this. I've done this for decades. We've already gone through a process to decide if you're capable or not. That was the intern application process. You're going to come in here and learn it, so don't be nervous about what you see. And that's a huge thing of teaching, is you just have to get nerves out of the way. But and then you see people foster and grow, and it sure is and by the time they leave at the end of their internship, this is like their home stereo system. They know every button and knob and control, and it's, the point isn't that you learn how to operate stuff on the Nautilus. The point is that you prove to yourself you can learn any technology in the world, and you leave here with fundamental troubleshooting steps that will serve you well the rest of your life. which means the next time you go home for the holidays and your parents ask you for help with the printer, you got to fix it.
Or you know well enough to walk away
Say,
from that
yeah.
request.
No say.
I think we need a new one.
Yeah. You have done the math on what a printer costs.
Have you tried turning it on?
Yeah. Power cycle.
Get out of the car and get back in again.
Yeah, exactly. Nice callback.
Oh, full circle.
We can say that we're on this new line
Nice
here.
summer.
Start of
All right,
line.
marked it.
Start a line marked.
And Suna told me to
Looks like we're starting to make progress at 080.
do line activities and operations based on the ship's position, and then separately mark Argus's position in like lines.
All right.
Yeah, so I've been keeping track of that.
Okay, yeah, Argus is starting to make a 080
Yep.
course.
My, I don't know what this relates to. It's just find it interesting.
Go for it.
Yeah. When she was young, she worked at a very high-end clothing, national clothing retailer based out of Seattle, and her training consisted pretty much of them telling her, use good judgment.
Sounds subjective.
And that's, yeah, but that's how they establish reputation for great customer service and reasonable return. They don't have a return policy. Just use good judgment. And it's an interesting way to run a large, family-owned company still, but nonetheless. No, I mean, she was in her 20s. She wasn't 12.
Yeah.
That would be a little different. But I think young people are more capable of accepting challenges than we give them credit for.
Bridge nav. That was perfect, Vitaly. Perfect.
One of my favorite things as a teacher is past 2 schools I've worked at, been able to have what I call Solve Team. And that class was a shorter class, and it was dedicated to a group of kids who wanted to join. And we would just literally try to solve whatever it was. Whatever they came up with, whatever they joked about, we would just try to do it. So one year, when Zika was very prominent, anytime a kid would come in with a cough or a sniffle, they'd be like, oh, you've got the Zika. And they would joke about it, but so, what can we actually do about it? Like, oh, we can't do anything, we can't cure it. Well, you can do other things. So by the time they finished the year, they worked with a local university, and they created an app that you could download for Android phones.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It would take weather data and let you know using your GPS location if it rained in the area, and then remind you to go and tip and toss out any standing water around your house, because the mosquitoes, the Aedes aegypti that are known for spreading them, live within about 50 to 100 meters of wherever they hatch. And that was it.
Yeah.
We had a little app launch party.
Oh, that's fun. I had an intern last year, I think it was, who was maybe second year from Iowa. And he was a film and video production major with a minor in biology, I think. It could have been geology. I apologize if I'm wrong. And as a result of his internship on Nautilus, just swapped those majors. So his minor became his major became his minor. And I always think that's a huge success story, if you can help inform somebody's My next intern is facing that same kind of, he's had a fork in his career path, and I think he's going to leave here with a clear direction. I don't know what that is, but that's up to him.
Yeah.
And my intern I had last year, over this last summer, I think it was, had a fellowship at the Johnson Space Center in Houston. And so he was helping astronauts with photo shoots. He was helping out at the zero gravity pool. Just doing all, working in the moon rock lab. You know, and for young people to have opportunities like that, that's I don't think anything existed like that when I was young. Maybe it did. I just wasn't aware of it.
There's a lot of great opportunities out there for students.
You can find them a lot easier now.
Yeah, Google is a wonderful thing. Just spend some time to search. Well, speaking of young opportunities, Peyton, you are about to be a sophomore in college. If someone has stumbled across Nautilus Live or stumbled across the internship, do you have any sage words of wisdom on advice on applying or things that you think they could do to help maybe sit in your seat next season?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know exactly if I have any wisdom about like how the application process goes or what qualities they're looking for. And I think like maybe Ed or some of the people who are training interns might have a better say in like what they're looking for. I would say definitely apply because it can't hurt. It's always worth just putting in the extra time to maybe open up a door for you. And even if it doesn't happen, you can always apply again later. And I think speaking with other people on board, once you get your foot in the door either here or with another program, you can keep coming back. Like Rebecca is our science manager in training, Rebecca Wipfler, and she first started like in her undergrad, and now she's coming back, just going into grad school as a science manager in training. And so there's lots and lots of opportunities for you to come back, either to Nautilus or other programs, as long as you're persistent.
I'll chime in as a former Nautilus intern. I started in 2013, and I applied just on a whim. There was no real, I had no ocean experience, no courses in oceanography, no time on a boat, anything like that, but I had some related skills in land-based remote sensing during grad school. So this was kind of what I thought would be an interesting side project, and now is my full-time career. So it's kind of like, just go, if you see something and you want to do it, and you're going to work hard, and there's a passion that you have towards it, just do it. Just apply for it. Try to do it. You never really know what a program is looking for.
Thanks, Peyton. Thanks, Rennie. Summer,
Yeah,
you started. Oh, Ed, go ahead.
I just want to reinforce that notion that Peyton introduced, is always apply, even if you don't think you meet the criteria, whatever. Make them say no. Don't you say no to yourself. Make them do it. And you'll, you know, I've had no shortage of interns that got in here that really didn't think they had a wild chance. And you don't know what we're looking for. So it may say that we want this, this, and this, and you have this and a little bit of that, but your real interest is here. Apply. Apply.
I find that that's where I have my most confidence, is when there's no reason to, you have no place in this, you know, kind of like applying for this or something like that. In your mind, you have nothing to lose, because you're not. So by going down different paths and being opportunistic about what is in front of you, and seek out things that are different, you're really never going to know what you want to do until you've tried a lot of things.
And if you find somehow to let your personality come through, that's super helpful too.
Yeah. Yeah, for this internship specifically, obviously living on a ship with a lot of people, you want someone who isn't going to be a hard time, you know? Someone who's
very
fun,
diplomatically stated.
relatable.
Summer, you started as an intern as well.
I did. I did start as an ROV engineering intern 5 years ago, and I knew, I mean, like everyone's talking about passion. I just knew, like, it was a paid internship, and I was just like, wait, I'm getting paid for this? And when I knew that, I was like, this is the coolest job ever.
Yeah.
And I love working every day when I'm at sea doing all this stuff. I love fixing stuff when it breaks. It's like a satisfaction that I greatly seek out. Not things being broken, but
Yeah, I was like, are you breaking?
Do you break things and then fix them?
It's like
when I
putting
get
things
bored
on your
enough.
checklist and then putting it off.
Were you a pilot earlier on before you were an intern? Were you flying
Yeah,
before then?
I've had my pilot's license for 10 years now.
Because it seems like your adherence to procedural checklists and stuff and your scan of gauges, etc., serves you well here.
Yeah, it is. It is a cool thing that the skills transfer over, and it is very much like flying a plane. I mean, you're constantly checking on your altitude and where are you going next, and like even a little bit more challenging. So because, I mean, stuff happens a lot slower down here, but you've got that added element of a cable, and you don't have that when you're flying. You're just, you know.
You don't typically fly very close to terrain. 15 meters.
Yeah, I mean, you're doing it wrong if you're doing that. Pull up, terrain.
Depends on what you're flying.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, the skills definitely, like you said, transfer over, and it's all about being ahead of it to like the next step, not just like what are we doing now, but like if the vehicle's transiting like we are now, and or if you're doing the science stuff, and you know, even small things like if you're gonna grip, for instance, an instrument, you got to like, you can't just grab the manipulator and just grab it. You kind of got to think about how you want to orient it for the camera view and the scientist and actually doing the sample. So there's a lot of cool challenges and stuff in this job, and I really, really, really enjoy it.
That's beautiful to hear, Summer. I have a saying for that. It's all in the grab.
Yeah, I mean,
You're one of the
I've done
few
it enough
people I've
times
actually
to
heard
realize
repeat
like,
that.
well, like, and then you've got to re-grip it, or it's just in the camera view, it looks terrible, and it's all about, you know, wanting to get that great view for the scientists and get them the data, and that's,
It's awesome.
yeah.
Wow.
Sorry, Jason.
You've been paying attention.
Yeah, I don't, yeah. So the way it works with them is they've got an engineer seat and the navigator and the pilot, so similar to this. It's just obviously like when they do single body ops, they don't have an Argus/Medea person, so I had a lot of time to observe and let it all absorb like a sponge, watching them do all these ODI connectors and underwater package deployments, and again, they're all just always one step ahead of what's happening now.
Jimmy's good at that. Were you out with Jimmy?
I was only with him on a brief
He's
engineering
good at
cruise, but yeah.
thinking
He's
4 steps
I've
ahead.
heard he's great at too explaining to like training people.
Yeah.
And I've heard he's a stick hog, but
Yeah.
but he will teach you. Yeah.
Where are we in the year? It's like July, right? We open up for interns in like December, I think. I could be wrong.
I think it's about that.
November, maybe? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a long ways off.
Yeah, I'd say when you do something and you love it that much and you have that feeling of, and I can get paid for this, that's when you found your niche. And that's all I have to say about that.
It was beautifully said.
You know, one thing reflecting on my application that was really interesting is like when I applied to like 3 of the internships at once, the ROV engineering, the data science, and the ocean science or data logging. And I really thought that like the data science and the ROV engineering internships were like what I had credentials for. But like secretly inside, I was like, I am the most excited about ocean science. And I when I heard back that they were like, oh, we want you for ocean science, I was really surprised because I was like, oh, all right, like this isn't really what I was expecting, but it was kind of what I wanted. And I don't know if that read in my application or something.
Huh.
But
We do, I think, I mean, each department runs it a little differently.
yeah.
I think we have a great intern program here from especially in selecting. We've been really knocking them out of the park.
So I've been very grateful to be on board. It's been amazing so far.
I have probably different criteria for my department. I want interns that have some interest in communications technologies, obviously.
Right.
Interest in science and the health of the ocean and the planet to some degree, somewhere. And I also want to choose somebody that this internship could have make the difference in the trajectory of their career. That in 10 years, I want them to be able to look back and say, being on the Nautilus opened doors for me that wouldn't have been open before. And as somebody who did hiring for 10 years when I was at a university, if the first or second thing on somebody's CV says, I controlled cameras at the bottom of the sea on Dr. Robert Ballard's exploration vessel Nautilus, I'd be like, what? I want to talk to that. I want to know more about that. Even if they weren't the strongest candidate. I mean, we're all human.
Yeah.
And I even go so far as to prepare similar language like that. And I give it to the interns at the end of the internship is, here's a great way if you want to, I know it's a struggle for people to describe what this is and what you did, but and language like responsible for critical digital assets, and this is small, compact, powerful language, and so we try and choose, and it's very competitive. So that frequently is the deciding factor. I've had people apply who are super passionate about ocean science and ecology, etc., and they've been doing video work in that realm, and they've made 3 documentaries that are on Vimeo, and they've got all their own gear, and they've got 6 years of production experience, and it's like, I don't need this.
Yeah.
You're kind of on your way.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd be great. Love to have you as maybe a contractor.
Yeah.
But you don't need the internship. Yeah.
You've already got your wind beneath your wings.
Yeah, exactly. As a matter of fact, my last intern, who was out from the start of the season, is, as of today, on her way to Greenland to work on an expedition.
Oh, that's cool.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Another part of all this is just meeting everybody that is like-minded and very intelligent, such as yourselves, and you make friends for life, and that's the other part of this that I enjoy.
Yeah.
Coworkers are never terrible.
Right. That's very true. And there's a bit of it too. I mean, these are, I mean, no matter how you put it, they're adverse conditions. We work long hours. We're away from our family and friends for a long time. We don't have access to media or a lot of communications. And so that's a bonding experience in and of itself.
Yeah.
I try and explain to people how you get exposed to so many different people. I think I might have said it to you, the talking to your shipmates and find out their backgrounds, because everybody has something amazing.
Yeah.
And I was on board the Nautilus at one point in my life, and I was on the social deck, and we were having discussion about exploring other planets. And our ship's superintendent electrician was saying, well, I'm really not, I'm interested in that, but I'm really fearful that we might actually, by trying to discover something about another planet, contaminate it and, spread some disease from Earth there and have a negative impact. And another person at the table said, well, actually, my book has 2 chapters about that. It's called Forward Contamination, and you should definitely check that out. And the electrician, not understanding quite what the guy said, oh yeah, I'd like to borrow that from you when you're done with it. And the gentleman said, well, no, I'm an astrophysicist. It's a book I've written.
That's awesome.
That's the type of conversations you hear on a research vessel.
Yeah, for sure.
No, I'm an astrophysicist. It's a book I've written. And I think he was just back on board. I think I missed him.
Was it John Willis?
Willis, yeah.
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 Yep, he's a lead SCF this year.
Has he already been out?
Yep.
Ah,
He was
I did miss
here
him.
for the subsea.
Yeah, I
right
was
at the
off for
start.
that, yeah.
Yep.
I supported them from land.
Yeah, he's great. That guy's great.
Yeah, it's hard to top John.
Also from the University of Victoria in beautiful British Columbia.
Yeah, he was joking about how it's like, you know, I go 10 minutes down the road and I'll be on Nautilus.
Yeah.
You can see his house from the ship.
Yeah. Does he live in Sydney? Maybe.
No,
I
when
don't-
he was
Yeah.
on subsea, he lives right off there in
Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's a very short, non-existent plane ride for him.
Yeah. I don't remember where I worked with.
He was
it's
on last year? He was on
yeah,
last year.
it's confusing because he also works for the University of Victoria in Canada, and other people do as well.
Yeah. So. You're here. Yeah, I'd never applied to any type of fellowships or anything until 2000, a while ago, and I took the Peyton approach. It's like, I'm just gonna cast a very wide net and see what I get in, and I got into all three.
Wow.
I was very, very shocked. I did a project archaeology one in Bozeman, Montana. I did the NASA Maven fellowship out in Boulder, Colorado at the lab for
that's a
atmospheric
fun
space
town.
physics. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Seaman SEM Institute. We spent that week at Discovery Channel headquarters.
DC?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right before Shark Week. It was
Right.
pretty crazy. But and you meet those amazing type of people, like the people here on the vessel, and it definitely inspires you to keep trying to do cool stuff, because everybody here has such a cool story, and maybe all one day we'll be close to Lonnie level, but
Yeah, I'm actually going
That's a pretty high bar.
parachuting.
Couldn't you
When I
get
get
to
off
be
the
this
ship.
old?
In this climate, we need a water dispenser up here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
Lonnie, you were telling me a story at one point about, like, you liked skydiving as a hobby, correct?
That was a story.
And didn't you have like a code word for it?
And that was a story. That's the end of that story.
Yeah.
Pressing your luck there over.
Yeah.
Really. Thought you'd come back at me later.
Yeah.
No, a lot of it was testing chutes, also for people jumping behind the lines. So
Testing them?
what kind of chute are you using? What's your altitude? What are the
Oh,
winds?
that kind of testing.
How far did you land from the X on the ground? And most of us had in our logbook something that said TDFTM, which means, sorry, too damn far to measure. We had to learn how to land in trees without doing it, and one did, and we actually had to cut the tree down to get him,
Oh my
get him
gosh.
down because his
Oh,
lines and
That would
everything
not be
were
a fun
so
ride.
entangled.
Oh my
yeah, you have to
Wow.
be careful you don't hang yourself if you get into one of
Oh,
those,
geez.
into the wires or the trees.
Man, oh man.
So that was an all-day operation. You learn something from all the mistakes.
How do you cut down the tree with the person in it? And
Yeah,
carefully, piece
Yeah.
by piece,
piece by piece,
branch by
just-
branch.
branch by branch, exactly.
like, well, hold on, Bob. We've got an idea.
Yeah, but then eventually you cut the lines, but in the beginning you just can't cut the lines. My first jump, a picture was taken and the sleeve was coming off incorrectly, so I was lucky.
Huh.
If you have a line over the top of your parachute, it's called a Mae West, as you can envision. I don't know if people remember Mae West, but she was famous Hollywood actress who was well endowed. So a line over the top of a full parachute's like an enormous bra.
Isn't it also a BCD? I thought I've heard of like
That
like
is for underwater.
oh, okay.
That's for scuba diving.
So there is